So, dear delegates, Suprabhat, Namaste, good morning, and welcome to the virtual international conference SNJB Pharmacon 2020, organized by SNJB's SSDJ College of Pharmacy, Chandwad, Nasik, India. I am Swati Zadav, faculty at SSDJ's College of Pharmacy, Chandwad, Nasik. Dear all, we are very happy and delighted to have witnessed a thorough knowledge feast with you all since last 3 days, 9 sessions by eminent speakers from India and abroad. We inaugurated the conference on 3rd December, and the theme of conference is Drug Discovery and Development Post-COVID Scenario. We divided this conference into 4 different parts according to areas of interest. Like on the very first day, the academic research, and the theme for day 1 was academic research challenges in the challenges in pharmaceutical sciences, elaborating the challenges people are facing in pharmaceutical sciences, especially in academic research. The day 2 threw light on the theme emerging technologies in pharmaceutical industrial research. So the emphasis was given on industrial research on day 2. Then day 3 theme was current regulatory aspects in pharmaceutical sciences, elaborating the national and international current regulatory requirements for product approvals, for natural products, and the perspectives, so on. And today, I am here very excited and totally charged to take you to the final day, day 4 of SNJB PharmaCon 2020 with the theme Hospital and Clinical Research, Challenges Faced and Lessons Learned. Now, continuing with the thread of our international conference theme of drug discovery and development post-COVID scenario, actually, our session will enlighten us with the current situation in the field of clinical research and also the hospital working. As all of you know, dear delegates, clinical research is an important step in drug discovery. Researchers and regulators, all of them they are having very keen eye on phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and even post-marketing surveillance. The way we all have been unprecedentedly affected by COVID-19 virus, even the clinical trials are affected by the pandemic. So what is the exact issue? What are the concerns? How clinical research is going on globally and in India? Today's first 2 sessions will cover these concerns, and the last session is dedicated to the hospital research and hospital pharmacy scenario. We'll have total 4 sessions in a day. And now let me once again welcome you all the dignitaries. By now, almost all of them must have joined. All the dignitaries, the speakers, the chairpersons, the delegates, the distinguished guests, and the enthusiastic delegates also. So let us begin with session first. Today we have with us Dr. Vatsala Sinha as a speaker for first session, and she will enlighten us with the topic Canadian Drug Development Landscape. Welcome, Dr. Vatsala. We are delighted to have you here today on this virtual platform of SNJB PharmaCon 2020. The chairperson for today's session is Dr. Sadhana Sathya. Welcome, Dr. Sadhana. We are again very happy. Hello, we are very happy to begin this session chaired by you on this pleasant morning of the last day of conference. Now, delegates, let me introduce to you today's chairperson of the first session, Dr. Sadhana Sathya. Madam completed her B.Pharm from UD City, Mumbai, and M.Pharm from Grant Medical College, Mumbai in clinical pharmacology. She pursued her PhD in pharmacology from prestigious UD City, Mumbai again. Madam is an expert pharmacologist in academia with the expertise in designing and executing preclinical and clinical studies with protocol design and report writing. Madam is also an expert in vitro cell-based experiments, an expert in patient education, nurses training, and other medical communications. She is handling multiple research projects at a time. Madam is working as a professor in pharmacy since 1998 in Institute of Chemical Technology, Mumbai. During the year 2011 and 12, she has worked as a visiting scientist at Department of Biological Science, University of Delaware, USA. She has been a principal investigator for many government-funded projects like DST, DBT, etc. Dr. Sadhana's areas of expertise and active research are development of dietary supplements from herbal origin to treat some CNS disorders like epilepsy, Parkinsonism, and Alzheimer's disease. She is also involved in evaluation of anti-diabetic activities of herbal drugs, PKPD studies, and biodistribution studies, and exploration of drugs and drug-herbal interactions. Madam, I went to your biodata and saw so many national and international collaborations for research. The list of your achievements is really appreciable. But with this brief introduction, I think I now request Dr. Sadhana Sathya, you only, to kindly chair the session. And now I hand over the mic to Dr. Sadhana Sathya for further delegation. Dr.
Yeah.
Sadhana Sathya, over to you, please. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you, Dr. Swati. And I'm really embarrassed. I shouldn't have sent you the whole CV. Maybe a brief was enough. And thank you so much. Thank you to Dr. Aman Uplangaukar as well to bring me to this platform. I'm so happy to meet you all because he always tells me about your college and your activities since we both meet at we both are a member of one institutional animal ethics committee, so we keep meeting and I keep knowing about your college and your this particular conference. So good morning everyone, and thank you for my introduction. Participants, welcome to this day 4 of the SNJBPharmaCon 2020. And as Dr. Swati put, we will be discussing about hospital and clinical research, and particularly the challenges faced and the lessons learned during this dreadful pandemic, and about the ongoing struggle. We all are struggling literally to overcome the same for a fruitful drug discovery and development. We are nowhere we have stopped, as Dr. Gui mentioned. So today we have with us Dr. Vatsala Sinha, who is a medical doctor by profession and with wide experience in public health, international clinical trial management, physician training, liaising with key opinion leaders of the industry. Welcome, Dr. Vatsala, and we are looking forward to hear your views on this today's topic. Dr. Vatsala has managed clinical trials at different places, from study startup monitoring to site closeouts. So, we would be looking forward to her different experiences. She has experience with remote data gathering, monitoring, and data management. Internationally, she has advised scientific team at the University of Alberta on making their diagnostic device documentation a research candidate adequate for regulatory submission. Dr. Vatsala has been involved with physicians and other key opinion leaders nationally as well as internationally, liaising, advising, and assisting them in the research process and therapeutic training program. She is a medical doctor by profession with a diploma in clinical trial management. And as I can see, she has worked both in India as well as in Canada. So her specialty is about medical training and to assess the medical services particularly. Currently, she is working in Edmonton as a consultant in healthcare and regulatory affairs. So welcome, Dr. Vatsala, and I hand it over to you to start the session today.
Thank you, Dr. Sadhana, and thanks for inviting me here and giving me a chance to talk. I'll start with sharing my screen first. Okay, can you see?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just gonna move the screen here so that I don't keep looking at my own video. Okay, so thanks everyone once again. And today I'm going to talk about Canadian drug development landscape and the lessons we can learn. So everyone is in India, and why do I want to talk about Canada? Of course, I live in Canada. That's not the real reason. But the other reason is Canada's standing in the global environment in terms of drug development is something that needs to be praised. And so in the subsequent slides, I'll talk about what is Canada's standing in terms of drug development, where all Canada has been excelling, and why. What is happening here that is pushing the drug development to this stage, where Canada is almost in every medical field, it's ahead of most of the other countries and coming up with a lot of innovative products. And we all know that drug development means billions of dollars. So companies have to spend so much on research and development, like at least $1 to $2 billion. And it sounds a lot. But when you talk about a disease, like a chronic disease, how much economic impact does it has on a country, on people of that country, like as an individual, as on country? So if you see that amount, then that $1 billion or $2 billion is just a fraction of what we actually spend on that disease. So it does make sense to invest money on the right kind of research. And that should be a boosting factor for all the countries, including India, because India has great potential to invest more and more in R&D. There is something very interesting and specific about Canada. Canada has a lot of academy industry collaborations. Most of the research is coming not from pharma companies, but from academic institutes and from these collaborations. And that saves money. And then of course, the pharma companies come in the picture and they provide money in terms of, they provide investments as well as their expertise to further improve the product. But then this particular model has been working for Canada since decades and decades. And that's why Canada is where it is. Then what are the initiatives Canadian government has taken over decades? Because it recognizes that why R&D is important. And I'll also talk about Canadian medical system, health system, and why it makes sense for a country like Canada to spend money on investment on drug development. And then we'll briefly go through India's position in drug development and the key lessons learned. And I think this will be interesting for most, as in after finishing your degree, what are the different kind of careers you could go in, like as per my experience, and where all you could apply your clinical research knowledge. So Canada's standing. Canada comes as fourth in number of clinical trial sites. So Canada doesn't have a big population compared to a lot of other countries, but it's still fourth in number of clinical trials, and it ranks sixth in producing top research papers. Just to compare, so Canada, out of 31 Western industrialized countries who spend the most on the R&Ds in pharmaceuticals, Canada stands 14th. But despite being 14th, it still manages to have 6th rank in top research papers. What does that mean? It means that it knows where and how to spend its money. And it's getting the most out of the money, the dollars it spends on its R&D. So something is going right here. And we need to understand that. Canada captures 4% of global clinical trials. It doesn't sound a lot, but considering Canada's population, it's a big number. And Canada has globally recognized clinical researchers. Of course, it's because of the academic institute, plus also there is a lot to do with retaining of skill sets here. Suppose if there's a researcher, very good researcher, the universities here, the government here will invite them and give them long-term tenures to do their research here, provide them with the fundings, provide them with all the equipments, and then there are students under them, thesis students under them, and that way they try to have as much of brain power here, and they do not let them go. As in, I'm not saying they force them, but they keep them engaged enough that they stay here, and that's how we use our brain power here. Just to emphasize again on Canadian breakthroughs, Canada has had impact on almost all fields, but it's been working really hard on medical R&D. Some of the Canadian breakthroughs, this is just to emphasize, as in early on from the 19th century and even from 1930s, it had started its initiatives towards developing everything innovative, like pablum, which is basically infant baby food. It sounds very simple, but long time ago, most of the hospitalizations were due to vitamin D deficiencies here, and most of the kids had rickets. So the 3 doctors in Toronto developed this formula. But this is not just that, it was the beginning of understanding that how food fortification can improve the health of masses. Like there is like 48% drop in neural tube defect just because of the fortification of grain-based food in Canada. And all milk is vitamin D fortified. So all that, and then this is again a next step towards fortification of food in developing countries, especially where there's a lot of malnutrition. Then Canada has worked in T-cell receptor identification, which is important for fighting infections, autoimmune disorders, cancers, postpartum rejection. And Canada has been a pioneer in biophysics. So basically, it is the first country to develop radium isotope strong enough, which could be used in radiotherapy in cancer. And since then, it hasn't looked back. And throughout the world, their technology is being used. Stem cells, gene therapies, transplantable stem cells, even the open heart surgery, the safe open heart surgery started from here. Then Canada has been one of the first countries to do stress research test, insulin, which is the greatest gift from Canada for all diabetics. And even now there's like huge number of diabetic trials going on here. Then heart therapy, we were talking about HIV, heart therapy treatment started from here. The scientists here realized that this is how multiple antiretroviral drugs can be used together to completely not cure, but control HIV to reach to AIDS level. And this doesn't sound too big, but child-resistant medical containers were first developed here. And since I'm here, I've never had any medicine here without that kind of container, which is interesting. And it saves a lot of poisoning cases here. So overall, this was the only reason for this slide was to emphasize on Canada's medical breakthroughs. Let's talk a little bit about Canadian Health Agency. So a Canadian Health Agency is called TPD, that's Therapeutic Products Directorate. And it's part of Health Products and Food Branch of Health Canada. And its job is to ensure that all drugs used by the public are safe and effective for specific conditions and are of high quality. This responsibility includes ensuring that drug manufacturers have tested the drug they wish to market and that the public is protected during each stage of drugs development. And generally the average time here for a drug to go from lab to marketing is generally 12 years on an average. Now, I think most of us already know the different stages of drug development. Still, I'll briefly go through it. So we have, any drug starts from chemical and biological research. So the lab tests are carried out on tissue cultures and with variety of small animals to determine the effects of the drug. If the results are promising, then they move ahead and go to the next stage of development, which will be preclinical development. The drug is given in the preclinical development. The drug is given to animals in various amounts and over different periods of time to determine the effects of the drug. If the results are if it can show that the drug causes no serious or unexpected harm at the doses required to have an effect, the manufacturer will proceed to clinical trials. So then they go for phase 1 clinical trial. So the objective is it's to be administered in mostly healthy humans, and it is to test if people can tolerate the drug. If this testing is to take place in Canada, the manufacturer must prepare a clinical trial application for the TPD. This includes the result of the first 2 steps and a proposal for the testing in humans. If the information is sufficient, the Health Canada grants permission to start testing the drug. Generally first on healthy volunteers. These trials typically consist of single dose given at one time and carefully the patients are carefully monitored. This testing starts the process of identifying common side effects as well as the dose range that can be tolerated. Now, after phase 1, if results seem to be satisfactory, then the manufacturer can go to phase 2. Phase 2 trials are carried out on people who have that particular condition for which the drug is being tested. And for example, Alzheimer's disease. And the patient has to be otherwise healthy and has no other medical conditions. Trials are carried out in Canada only by approval of TPD. Again, for phase 2 also, they have to take an approval. And the objective of the trial is to continue to gather information on safety of the drug and begin to determine its effectiveness. Trials are designed and carried out by highly qualified investigators who have expertise in that particular disease. And the drug is given for sufficient time to determine if it makes a difference compared to people who are given another type of treatment. So either it could be a different treatment or a placebo, depends on the protocol. And then side effects are identified and effective drug dosage are also determined at this level. Then comes the phase 3 clinical trial. If the results of phase 2 show promise, then the drug manufacturer provides an updated clinical trial application to TPD for any phase 3 trial, which will include Canadian sites. So if the trial is done in Canada, of course, you have to get approval from TPD. Many more, then more and more patients of the same disease, of the indicated disease are involved, and they can also have other medical conditions. And those people who are taking other medications, other types of medications, they can also be part of phase 3 trial. And then here the objective is to see if the drug is effective and has acceptable side effect profile, and it has to be tested in people who are more like general population instead of like handpicked only the diseased people, but they have also other comorbidities. And then from phase 3 data, it is determined, more data is available about how the drug should be used, what should be the ideal optimal dosage regimen, and the possible side effects. And now comes the new drug submission. If the results of phase 3 continue to be favorable, the drug manufacturer can submit a new drug submission to TPD. A drug manufacturer can submit a new drug submission regardless of whether the clinical trials were carried out in Canada. That's something interesting. Even if you didn't do your trials in Canada, you can still apply, submit a new drug submission. The TPD reviews all the information gathered during the development of drug and assesses the risks and benefits of the drug. If it is judged that a specific patient population and specific conditions of use the benefits of drug outweigh the known risk, then Health Canada will approve the drug by issuing notice of compliance. Health Canada will also review and edit the product monograph submitted by the manufacturer. What is product monograph? Basically, this is a document which helps ensure that drug is used by providing used properly by providing the physicians with the information they need. And if there is a life-threatening condition, Health Canada can authorize a drug manufacturer to market a drug with the condition that the drug manufacturer undertake additional studies to verify the drug's benefit. This authorization is called Notice of Compliance with Condition. This Notice of Compliance with Condition is given to an eligible drug which has demonstrated promising clinical effectiveness in clinical trials. The product must be of high quality and possess an acceptable benefit. The conditions include a requirement of closely monitor the drug for adverse reactions and provide Health Canada with regular updates. Once the conditions are met, the designation is removed. Then finally, we come to phase 4. Phase 4 trials begin after the drug has been approved to use in general population following phase 1, 2, 3 trials to rigorously test the efficacy and the safety. So it was a brief introduction on how the drug is developed in different stages. Excuse me. So when we are talking about the impact of disease, economic impact, we already know that there is like a lot of disability or morbidity, mortality can happen in any disease. Here I take an example of a chronic disease, diabetes, which is very common throughout the world, and how it impacts any country. In this case, we'll talk about Canada, America, and India in terms of finances. So Canada spends $12 billion per year on diabetics. It's a huge number for Canada because in Canada, the health system is different. We mostly don't have any private healthcare. Everything that's spent is spent by the government in the sense that we pay the taxes and the money goes from there in everyone's treatment. Whether I have any disease or not, I still pay the money, and someone else who is more sick or like needs more will get the treatment. And there's a hope that one day, if I need it, the treatment will be provided to me. So that gives a big initiative for the country for the government to work towards more and more better cures for the disease, so that it doesn't have to spend on people's on the treatment of people, but rather can have more effective treatment in lesser price. And then the heart disease, other cardiovascular diseases are also, in Canada, they also end up spending $18 billion annually on the treatment costs and in wages and productivity. As per WHO, there are roughly 422 million people living with diabetes globally and 1.6 million deaths directly attributed to diabetes. Now coming to America, there are 34 million diabetics there, 88 million pre-diabetics, and the annual cost of diagnosed diabetes is $327 billion US. India stands second among the top 10 diabetic countries, and almost 69.2 million people are diabetics, and pre-diabetics are 36.5 million. I'm sure this pre-diabetes number is much more than what we have because a lot of people don't know that they're pre-diabetic. In my clinical experience, a lot of patients with diabetes came only when they had a complication. Before that, they had no idea that they had diabetes. Only when they're about to lose a limb or a toe or a finger or end up with sepsis, then they would come to the hospital, they will be checked, and it turns out that they are diabetic. So I couldn't find a single nationalized data. There were a few studies on the expenditure on diabetic patients. So one of the studies was done on 50 patients, and it turned out that around 14,508 rupees was spent over 1 year on the treatment of these people. And then there was another study which says if in urban in urban population, they calculated that there was a median salary of 100,000 rupees that a person was earning. Out of that, 10,000 was spent on his diabetes treatment, which is a huge percentage for someone who's earning 100,000 rupees. I mean to say 1 lakh. And in rural, average income was 10,000 per year. And out of that, a diabetic was spending 6,260 rupees per year. So if you see that someone is earning this amount of money and a big chunk, like almost 30-40% of that is spent on his treatment of diabetes, it is a big number that a person is spending. And especially in India, most of the people end up spending from their own pocket for chronic diseases. So it is a bigger impact on individual level. How do we calculate the expenditures? So there are some direct and indirect expenditures. Obviously, the hospital admissions, OPD, and then prescription medications. If there is any complication, diabetes, prescription for that, anti-diabetics, physician visits. So all that attributes to direct expenditure. And then for indirect, people are not able to attend their work, or there's reduced productivity directly and indirectly. Suppose someone is going to office, they're not able to go to office or their factory. And suppose you have a kid and the nanny or the daycare person is sick because of that particular disease, and she cannot take care of her child, and that's why you cannot go to work because you have to stay home. That is also an indirect expenditure on that particular disease. And then the disease will cause some disabilities, amputations, hospital admissions for maybe days and months, surgeries. And then due to productivity capacity, due to there can be lost productive capacity due to early mortality also. And I have jotted down some American numbers here, which goes in billions of dollars per year of indirect cost. Just for simplicity, I have made this chart to quickly, okay, where did it go? Sorry. Yeah, to see the difference between the different countries in terms of number of patients of diabetes, pre-diabetes, and how many $1 billion we end up spending. For Canada, it's considering Canada's population is very small compared to US and India, it's 3 million diabetics and pre-diabetics are 11 million. And same with US, it's 34 and 88 for pre-diabetics. In India, it's 69.2 millions. Of course, considering our population, it had to be more than most of the other countries. But the pre-diabetics don't seem to be that many, 36.5 million. That means there is some lag in terms of finding out the pre-diabetics. It's obviously mostly it's because most of the people do not get their tests on a regular basis, unlike here where we almost get our annual checkups every year, 6 months to every year. And so if something had to show up, it will show up then. And looking at the cost, Canada spends 12 billion per year, US spends 327 billion, and India spends $138.4 billion. It doesn't seem more than USA, because even though our population suffering from diabetes is more, it's because of more generic drugs available in India, and a lot of times a lot of people are not even able to access the best care for themselves. So that could be the reason that we see smaller numbers. Drugs and overall healthcare is also cheaper in India. That also gives smaller numbers. Still, it is not too small, considering that it's 138.4 billion per year. And out of that, if we take a small chunk, even 1% of it for research and development of diabetic drugs and cure, it is a big deal, even for India. And I think it is doable. I'll quickly go through the Canadian research and development scene. So most of the new drug medicines and drug candidates are increasingly being developed externally via partnerships with academia, small and medium-sized enterprises, government and research centers, as well as contract research organizations. So there is a lot of research happening outside the pharmaceutical companies, like 60% of innovator small molecules and 82% of innovator biologics have their roots outside of big pharmaceutical companies. So this means that there are a lot of external partners here in Canada that are involved in research, which includes universities, research centers, hospitals, and not directly pharmaceutical companies. And we have a really well-developed Canadian CRO system where they participate in all phases, including chemical and preclinical, phase 1, 2, 3, 4, all stages of R&D. It's in Canada, the pharmaceutical industry R&D stands even ahead of information technology R&D in terms of its intensity and expenditure. Just to like, how do I come with that number? If you see, there are the top 100 companies in Canada that spend the most on research and development in Canada. Out of that, 25 are pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies. Canada has a lot of industries, including petroleum, natural gas, petroleum, a huge agriculture industry, IT, artificial intelligence. Then comes pharmaceuticals. So out of 100, if 25 are pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies, that means Canada is investing big time in R&D. So average cost could be around $1.4 billion over 12 to 13 years of developing a new drug, a new molecule. And it will be less for a generic drug, which is $3 to $10 million here. So normally when we talk about the expenditure on a drug or on a new drug, it can range anywhere from $1 billion to $2 billion, around $1.4 billion. That's what we talk about. But in Canada, over last 2 decades, the R&D cost has gone down by 27%. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It depends. It's not that companies are not, or the government is not willing to spend. Why it has gone down is because to develop that particular molecule or a new technology, the cost itself has come down because of including the external partners. And instead of a company itself putting all its money in its R&D and coming up with products which may or may not be a success, which can cost more. But if you include external partners, like suppose there are 10 universities doing different types of research. Anyway, the universities had to do research. They have fundings, they have PhD students, they have world-leading researchers. And if they come up with 100 new products, out of that, maybe 1 or 2 will be good. And only then that they come to the level where they're doing some partnership with the pharmaceutical company. And that's when the pharmaceutical company comes in the picture a lot of times. And that's how the overall cost comes down. This is just a graph to show that how over the years the cost has come down. Although it doesn't sound too much, like from 1 billion to 0.87 billion, but 27% cost deduction is a big number for someone who's investing in drug development. What is unique about healthcare, Canadian healthcare system? So it's very interesting model here. First time when I moved here, initially, some people would complain that there's too much waiting time. Personally, I didn't see that. Because as a physician, I realized that anyone who was dying always got treatment. Anyone who was serious, like suppose if you have a fever or fever, and so they will give you an ibuprofen or a paracetamol, and they will ask you to wait because there is an accident patient coming right then. There is someone with a cardiac arrest. They need to be seen first. But a lot of people would complain that they had to wait. But they always make sure that people are prioritized, and that's how they are seen. And then you also have an option of going to a doctor, and you're always seen, even if you had to wait a little bit. So that's where Canadian healthcare system is different. And it's public funded, so we actually do not pay anything from our pocket. Every time I go to doctor, I don't pay anything. I just show my card to them because my tax money goes to the government, and the government gives a huge chunk of money to healthcare system, where everyone, despite of what income I have, what kind of employment I have, what is my health or my age, I get my treatment. This is called universal healthcare, regardless of what I am. And every province, like India has different states, Canada has different provinces. So every province has its own healthcare system. And some of the provinces divide their own province into big chunks, like municipal areas, where they have different healthcare system. But where I live in Alberta, the whole province has single healthcare system. It is Canada's biggest healthcare system. And medical treatment is free, as I mentioned, except for your drug prescriptions, dental care, and eye care. But if someone is below poverty line, they get all of that too. And then you get health insurances, private health insurances, or government health insurances to cover all those expenses. So it's pretty much not bad. It's pretty good. So because of the universal healthcare, what is positive about it that is driving it towards a better clinical research environment? First of all, the primary healthcare system here is standardized, and we already have established networks. There is a huge and diverse patient pool. Although we live in Canada, there are people from almost everywhere in the world living here. So that provides a huge and diverse patient pool from almost everywhere in the world. Sometimes you will almost think that, are you really in Canada or somewhere else, because of the mixed population that you'll see here. There is a huge accessible healthcare database. So imagine all the patients in all the provinces going to a single healthcare system. So all that data of their health goes to one single healthcare database. And from there, you can derive some amazing results. So we already have a system for clinical research, and because of being standardized, suppose a research institute or the university is doing a clinical research. So everyone in the primary healthcare system is intimated, trained, and told that, okay, this is the kind of patient we are looking for. These are eligible, and it's very easy. A patient goes to primary healthcare system, and then the doctor sees, okay, this patient is of this age, has this disease, so this person is eligible and can definitely benefit from this research, and they are directed towards the university or the research institute. And considering that we have the biggest healthcare system, it becomes even easy to find the right kind of patients, right data, and extrapolate or interpolate results out of that data. So very much like we have infrastructure, we have data, we have trained people. Almost every research place and university already has researchers, PhDs. They also have research coordinators, full-time research coordinators. And as a new trial comes, everyone knows what to do. Another interesting thing here is it is available in India too, but not to that extent. But here, like every primary healthcare network, university and research institute is also associated with social healthcare networks, where there are nurses and social healthcare workers who, if the need be, can go home to home to ensure patient safety. If things are going fine, did patient take the drug? They even come to your home if you have a new baby to check if the baby's fine. Did the baby have jaundice? So they will come home and take the blood, and so that the new mother doesn't have to travel and go anywhere else. There's a lot that happens in mental health cases, in diabetics. These social workers and nurses will visit at home and do the needful. So that, considering that back home in India, when we used to do the clinical research trials, a lot of times this used to be an issue that to do a follow-up, a simple follow-up, we had to call the patient. Sometimes a phone follow-up will do, but if you already have a network of social healthcare professionals, then it's pretty easy. It's just a little extra work, or sometimes not even that. They can fit it in their regular routine, and they're already anyway paid for that job. So it's not a lot of extra money, and then they go and do the needful, and that makes it much easier. And since I know this happens in India, but mostly in rural areas. And to what extent, not sure. And most of that staff is not trained enough to do research, clinical research work. However, here, almost pan-Canada, this system is available. And so it's easier to track patients and have less dropouts. Very strong reason for Canada to attract investments. Clinical trial investment is its academic institutes. Canada is world leading in higher education system. Then another reason why there is a lot of investment is we have a public funded healthcare system, which is known for its quality. There are internationally recognized networks and health charities dedicated to clinical trials in areas including cancer, cardiovascular, and rheumatology. There has been strong investment by government, especially the government's institute, which is called Canadian Institute of Health Research, which has invested $667 million only for health research funding. They're a world-class contract research sector with extensive capabilities in phase 1 to 4 clinical trials. Some of the examples of investments at both academic and industry level include these. Like, I wouldn't go in details, but Roche has invested, Sanofi, Bayer. Some of them invest directly in terms of dollars. Some of them invest as providing their expertise or counseling or just a review. Even doing a review for someone, a new team who's doing a research in a new product does a lot, helps a lot. Canada has extensive network of academic health institutes and research centers, and they all support clinical research. There are 17 medical schools. Compared to some of the other countries, 17 medical schools don't seem to be a lot, but since we almost do not have any private healthcare here, except in few places, but they are not hospitals. All medical schools and hospitals are public funded. So the whole population pool goes to these medical schools. So that's why 17 is still a good number here. And they all have clinical research facilities. There are 40 groupings of academic healthcare organizations, more than 13,000 researchers, and researchers and thesis students often work together. So even a world-class researcher, if he's in a university and he's doing his research, it attracts so many global talented students here, and they would love to work with them. This way, the students also get immense exposure and benefit, and sometimes, and the researcher gets his help that he needs from other people, from the students. And a lot of times what happens is someone is doing their PhD or MSc and they come up with idea and they go to their professor or the researcher saying, okay, I think this will work. This seems to be very innovative and we can work on it. And if it seems promising, the university almost like all the time manages to fund them. And there is always a good support for anyone who wants to do something new and innovative. So that way, I won't say that funding is not a problem. Funding is a problem everywhere, but everyone is very supportive. And if a team of researchers think that, okay, this is very promising, there is always a way of finding out how to fund that, at least here. Some of the globally recognized academic research centers and institutes are in Canada, and these are the examples. They are mostly research centers in stem cells, cancer research, immunology. Some work in diabetes too, neurology. Overall, all these research centers have a lot of new innovative researches happening. They have researchers, they have students, they have a complete staff who can do the research, clinical research in all stages. So if a new trial comes up, it's just they are also experienced that it's just a matter of adding one more trial for them, and maybe they can have a little bit of help from somewhere else, by hiring someone else, but they already have the infrastructure that cuts down the cost of the whole trial by a lot of billion, maybe not billion, but at least few $1 million. So how does the government support the healthcare innovation here? So government is pretty prone to support public research infrastructure. Why do I call it public research infrastructure? It's because all the universities, hospitals, and the research centers that I mentioned earlier, they're all tax money funded, which means it's public funded. So, and government wants more and more research to come out of it. It gives a reason for the government to keep investing in it if we keep coming up with new innovative products. So this is a way of justifying, okay, we are paying the tax money to these institutes, and it's not going waste. We are coming up with so much of innovation. And also, if since all that healthcare system is public funded, there's a huge amount of money going in patient treatment care. And if a patient is disabled, that also comes, so they get a disability allowance, and that also comes from the tax money. So it definitely makes sense to have more and more treatment options available so that the morbidity and mortality in these patients are reduced immensely, and the government, the tax money doesn't go in treating things that can be dealt in a better way. And that way the tax money can be saved if suppose instead of having taking so many anti-diabetic treatment, a patient like right now they're working on a stem cell culture, which can be where they have developed islet of Langerhans, the insulin cells that can be put in a mice. They have already done that. It's in University of Alberta, and it has been successful. So they're looking for funding where to try the same thing in human beings. If it turns out to be successful, then someone who is diabetic, and especially uncontrolled diabetic, and if he gets cured by this, they will not need a lot of pre-diabetic, the drugs that they have been taking. Especially and the type 1 diabetes where a child has to suffer so much. And because of that, first of all, the money is spent on their treatment. Then the second is the parents who have to take care of the child often miss their work. All that expenditure ultimately comes is paid by the tax money. And if the child or the diabetic gets the right treatment, this kind of treatment, they probably will not need the rest of the expensive treatment for the rest of their lives or most of their lives. So that's why it makes sense for the government to spend money on that. And so also Canada has been trying to improve the quality and competitiveness of clinical trial environment. And it continues to work to enhance the conditions of clinical trials in Canada. Some of the major initiatives are, so they have standardized the research ethic boards. So there has been efforts on national and regional level to make research ethic boards more efficient, including through the development of national standard in this area, to make sure that the time and the quality of research ethic boards remains standard, and there's not too much of time and wasted in preparing different kind of documents and meeting the different requirements of different kind of boards. And something very interesting that Canada has launched, it was launched in 2015, called Canadian Clinical Trial Asset Map. It aims to market Canada as a leading destination for clinical trials in global marketplace by providing a comprehensive picture of Canada's clinical research assets. So the Canadian Clinical Trial Asset Map is basically a portal created by the Canadian government. It has, it provides all kind of support that Canada can provide in terms of clinical trials. Like you can find out what are the different trial sites in Canada, what specialty they are, individual people who are expert in research, the researchers, different companies involved, and what kind of funding you can get. So everything that Canada has to offer, you can find it at one place. And so internationally, if anyone wants to do a clinical trial in Canada or is considering to do it here, can access Canadian Clinical Trial Asset Map and see what they can get out of Canada. They can also do very easy, like a basic primary feasibility test over there, you know, on the portal to find out if it really makes sense to come here and do it. So this is pretty unique of Canada to promote its clinical trial centers. Also, Canadian Institute of Health Research has committed for $150 million, which is expected to be matched by other pharmaceutical companies, research-based pharmaceutical companies over 5 years to improve coordination of clinical research activities and support, train, recruit, and retain outstanding researchers in Canada. So this is the kind of money that has been spent to keep the skill set here in Canada. Also, government has launched few programs to support research at different levels. One is the Center of Excellence for Commercialization of Research. The second one is Business-Led Networks of Centers of Excellence. And the third one is Structural Genomics Consortium. Coming to academic industry collaboration, there is a shift towards more collaborative and externalized research and development by pharmaceutical companies. And there are world-leading science organizations in Canada. Some of them are Canadian Institute of Health Research, the National Research Council, and Genome Canada. These organizations are partnering directly with firms to lead innovation and drive discovery. What is the objective of collaboration? Why would academia and industry, the pharmaceutical industry, collaborate together? It encourages partnership between the two industries, academia and industry. It helps in commercializing Canadian discoveries. So it is in favor of academia too, because they keep doing research, and what if it never goes to the market? So this is where the industry comes in the picture. Then it does put Canada on the global map of innovation. Canada has been doing it way before formally the government launched these collaborations, and it has been working very well. So it is an example of Canada had been doing something which had been going very well, as in producing good results for Canada so far. And it has only strengthened the government's initiative towards creating more and more of such collaborations. So we talked about collaborations. Some of the results of these collaborations are, just to give you an example, there are 15 centers of collaboration in Canada, and almost 13 pharmaceutical companies have invested in a combination of seed money and expertise. So there is no competition when it comes to the collaboration. The pharmaceutical companies do not feel that, oh, okay, that company invested, so I should not invest, or there's no competition. It's all healthy, and in the hope that something really good comes up. The pharmaceutical industry understands that one company alone cannot produce something groundbreaking every time. It has to collaborate, and otherwise they will just end up spending billions of dollars, and a lot of times they will not come up with anything. So it is not worth the time and money for a company, and with a fraction of investment from what they generally spend on R&D, they can collaborate and come up with way more successful, innovative research ideas. And this is a win-win for both academic institutes as well as pharmaceutical companies. These centers can be of different models, like it could be investor centers, incubators. Incubators is where you start a new business, like a university has an incubator center where it picks up the research or new ideas coming from that particular university. And then a team of business development and researchers and other technical people make sure that the best of the researches are commercialized further. They can also be service provider or innovators. How do these companies participate? As in, a pharma company is there and it wants to do the collaboration. It doesn't always has to be by spending millions of dollars. They can, of course, finance the research activities. They can also do some contract work for the research. Like if they are capable of doing certain kind of chemical test or biological test at their lab, they can contract out that, or if they can do a certain phase of the study, they can do that. And this is their participation. They can also help in licensing in and out of research output. They can do support in kind and provide their expertise and consultation. They also help in reviewing projects. So researchers are often not commercial people, so they see everything through the eye of academics. And oftentimes they need an expert, like mostly in the pharmaceutical companies, to go through their research and their projects to see what is the feasibility, how far he should fetch his idea of this research, and what will be the applications of the project he's doing. And all that commercial point of view, a company or a person who is working at the commercial end of research definitely can add a lot of insight. What do companies get out of that? Very importantly, they can get exclusive access to the intellectual property. As you all are aware, that if they get an exclusive access, they can exclusively sell the product for certain years and get and that's a big money for them. They get early access to technology platforms. They can also use these collaborations. So in that collaboration, a lot of CROs can be also part of it. So they could also use their contract services. These are some of the Canadian Health Research and Commercialization Centers. So these are the places where the research part happens, and then there are commercial teams which pick up, okay, this research, how can I apply it to more and more people? And does that really make sense to go ahead with the research, or we should shut it down before we spend more money? So all those important decisions are taken here, and a certain university, if they are developing something innovative, but they do not have a particular equipment, a lot of times these commercialization centers can be helpful by connecting them to another company which has that equipment, and they can collaborate together. For example, the Mars Innovation, it's a commercialization of research. Very interesting thing is their office has big pharma companies like Pfizer, Sanofi, everyone, but not on different floors. They are all on the same floor. And this gives them an opportunity to mix with each other, intermingle, find out what's happening, like in purely research manner. So there is no competition happening. They're not hiding anything. The researchers are there. The companies are right there. There is no waste of time. There is no waste of energy, and they are working together. This is what we need. These are some of the global partners in these collaborations. And you can see almost all major pharmaceutical companies are part of these academic commercial collaborations. I'm talking about the partnerships, but what about the success stories? Some of the good things or innovative things that came up, the examples are, one example is radiopharmaceutical to deliver targeted radiotherapy to metastatic prostate cancer. They're developing a treatment for early onset morbid obesity. The genomic biomarkers for the treatment of cardiovascular diseases, to identify and validate molecular targets. They are also developing new class of antivirals. There is a partnership in tuberculosis and malaria drug discovery, where Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and other academic industry partners are investing a lot of skill sets and investments, financial investment. I also know that Bill and Melinda Gates are working pretty hard and very successfully in India, as well as some of the other countries. I know it because I've worked for them, and they are very dedicated. And tuberculosis and malaria is not a problem here in Canada. Like, we don't even get a BCG vaccination here, and no one knows, a lot of people don't even know about malaria here. But still, there's a research happening because of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And because they want to apply this in other countries like India and Africa and some of the other countries where these diseases are more common. So that's the kind of things that are coming up. It is not directly affecting Canada, but still, still people are interested, researchers are doing it, and no one is complaining about it. Like, they're happy that, okay, someone else will get the benefit out of it. What I'm trying to emphasize is this is the kind of collaboration without thinking about, is it only that it should be only for me and not for anyone else. That's the kind of collaboration we need when it comes to science and research. They are developing a vaccine for to prevent group A streptococcal infections. There is the discovery of safe and reliable medical isotope production method in response to eliminate the threat of a worldwide shortage. That's also due to the one of the results of industry partnership. And Canadians, in collaboration with Canadian Space Agency, there is an image-guided autonomous robot developed that can actually detect breast cancer in International Space Station, understanding that astronauts stay there for a long period of time, and they definitely need something to rule out breast cancer. And this is just the beginning, because I'm sure this can be applied further. A lot of technologies from the space agencies have come to medical sciences and being used. These are the different health research networks. So the Canada, the government has federal research networks. Just like in India, you will say central government. So here it is called federal. So the federal research networks constitute of network of centers of excellence, then centers of excellence of commercialization and research, and business-led networks of centers of excellence. And there are international research networks. Now coming to networks of centers of excellence, basically they're large-scale academically led virtual research networks involving partners from academia, industry, government, and nonprofit organizations. So these centers are basically academic in nature. So they start as academic and they then have other industry, government, and nonprofit organizations in them. So this makes sure that the point of view of research stays more academic than just commercializing it. And these are some of the networks. Now, the other type of network is centers of excellence for commercialization and research. So this aims to create world-class centers to advance research and facilitate commercialization of technologies. These are some of the CECRs, that's the commercialization centers. And so their focus is mostly on commercialization. So the research is there, and now these people focus on how to commercialize it further. Now there are business-led networks of centers of excellence. These are large-scale collaborative research networks led by the private sector, focused on specific research needs of industry. So this is interesting because this is led by the private sector, like CQDM. So this is a private sector-led center of excellence where you can, if you have a research or you are developing something innovative, you can go to them and apply for a funding. And if they see that, okay, your innovation has potential of helping people, then there can be a lot of private sector companies coming to fund you. And they can also provide with the right kind of resources. Like suppose you have the research with you, but you don't know how to go ahead with clinical trials. So, or you don't have the money to get a CRO involved. Those kind of fundings are available there. Then another one is Exactus. It is purely oncology based. It is a pan-Canadian network of 14 oncology centers focusing on precision oncology research. This is also private sector, but only meant for oncology. There are other international research networks. You can see that some are for cancer, some are for infectious diseases, some are for type 1 diabetes and cardiovascular research. Canadian model, how does it speed development of new drugs? We all know new drug development is a long and complex process. Canada has a great number of novel health technologies coming out of its universities and research hospitals. So the more number of research is done, the more chances of something promising coming up. So that's why it's important, especially in Canada and anywhere else, that more and more academic institutes and research centers indulge in more research and innovation. If 100 research projects are going on, at least one will be worth pursuing further. Just like any other country, the challenge here is also not enough venture capital. Although it looks like there is enough, but still it's not enough for the amount of research that goes on here. These are some of the federal research networks like CDRD. It's based in Vancouver. It is a nationally mandated center of excellence for commercialization and research. What it does is it pre-validates and de-risks many of its publicly funded discoveries. So if there is a publicly funded discovery coming from university or any of the research centers, it goes through it, sees that whether it is valid, the research methodology was correct or not, whether the results are correct or not. And then it also sees whether it has the potential, right kind of potential that the researcher thinks it has. So this way it validates the research, it reduces the risk that another company will take by investing in that research. So that creates a kind of trust in companies who would like to commercialize that product. It also creates viable investment opportunities for private sector. So instead of randomly going to different researchers and saying, okay, what are you doing? I would want to invest in something. Instead of that, the private sector goes to these research and commercialization centers to find out the right kind of projects and researchers they can invest into. This innovative model is accelerating the commercialization of medical innovations to improve healthcare delivery and patient care in Canada and abroad. So their mission is to improve healthcare, and this kind of model is helping in bringing out more and more research and innovative products to the level where the private sector can approach them and commercialize these innovations. So as I mentioned, Vancouver has this another center called CDRD. Just to emphasize on the kind of work they do, they have so far evaluated 1,400 technologies for their commercial and therapeutic potential. And out of that, 269 have been incubated with CDRD and 58 were successfully advanced towards commercialization, generating 72 patents. So this is so when there are hundreds of universities everywhere else, and you have this common platform where the researchers can reach out, and they will be helped in terms of finding the what is the potential of their research in terms of getting profits or getting people treated. It is easier for the private sector to go there. It is easier for the researchers to go to that one center. And that is what Canada has at different places, at different levels, at federal level as well as provincial level. CDRD has spun off 7 new companies. One of them is Zucara. It has developed and is developing a new technology to prevent hypoglycemia in patients with diabetes. And then another company that's also spin-off, it's improving chemotherapy drug absorption with its patented nanoparticle platform technology. And so these are the example of spin-off companies. So these are all the technologies that started from probably just somewhere in a university where some PhD students and some researchers were doing some work. And now they are a proper pharmaceutical company. And they are developing and plan to market it further. CDRD expanded its global industry partnership portfolio with the addition of AstraZeneca. The agreement provides unique resources that will allow CDRD to provide validation and screening for novel drug targets. So what does AstraZeneca get out of it? First, they will be getting whatever research positive things come out, they will have exclusive access to that new innovation. And that is even without starting their own very basic level research. Someone else is doing it. They go to this, this commercialization center. They funnel out the most potential candidates, and AstraZeneca is ready to further validate and screen these targets. And they see, okay, out of the 100 they validated, the one seems to be a blockbuster. And that's where it gets its product. Okay, my local stories. I was just excited to share what's happening in my city. I live in Alberta, and basically Edmonton. It's the capital of Alberta. And there is an immense number of research, medical and therapeutic research happening in the university here. And I just wanted to share a few things. We have, just like the federal centers, there are some provincial level centers too. So we have Health City Edmonton. It's a not-for-profit organization. It engages with innovators. So since it's local, the University of Alberta innovators can directly engage with them. They pair the initiatives with novel capabilities from industry. So they pair the innovators with the industry. So they know which private sector company is looking for the innovation of that kind. So they can connect them together. They're kind of like honest brokers. And since it's not profit, they really don't have anything other than excelling the innovations. And they're working in artificial intelligence, augmented and virtual reality, blockchain, and other things. One of the example of health city success stories is Entos Pharma. It started from University of Alberta. It is developing next generation genetic therapies using our fusogenics nucleic acid delivery platform. And I'm also excited to share this, that Dr. Michael Houghton, he's the one, he's a virologist. He's the one who received a Nobel Prize for this year for discovering hepatitis C. It's also from University of Alberta, Lee Cushing Institute of Virology at University of Alberta. And he still continues to work on developing vaccines. This institute was designed for rapid response of viral pandemic. Coming to, I will briefly go through the India's drug, a few things about India, since we spoke about Canada, and we also need to understand a bit about India and what are the take-home lessons that can be applied here. India's drug development scene. India has been known as the largest exporter of generic drugs. In recent years, India has been an emerging hub of pharmaceutical research and development. And many companies have started investing in preclinical development of small novel molecules. The regulatory body has openly suggested encouragement for the local India pharma companies to get deeper into innovation. And very important step was in 2005, the new patent law, which led to greater tax benefits and grants for pharmaceutical researchers in India. The new patent law encourages pharmaceutical innovation, that is for sure. This is a graph I picked up. It is the graph about how many Indian patents were granted during the year 2009 to 2018. And although we don't really understand a lot of numbers here, I have the chart here. I haven't compared it directly with any other country in this chart, but when I went through some of the other countries, right now, Indian patents are almost at par with most of the other Western countries. I cannot comment about how many of them are pharmaceutical patents, but over the years since 2005, after 2005, the number of patents that India has been doing has definitely increased. If you can see, the numbers have increased gradually and probably for good. The only thing is how many of these patents are worth commercializing. That's a question. And if they are worth commercializing, are they being successfully commercialized? Do we have resources for these researchers, these patent owners to reach out to help them and guide them to further commercialize and see the scope or application of their research in further development? What do we expect as India moves forward in drug development? So there is definitely an attempt to reorientate efforts towards new innovative medicines. The transition from generic drug to high-risk drug discovery makers is slow, but it will happen. I would like to give example of Ranbaxy. It launched Syndrium. They launched Syndrium. It's a new drug for the treatment of uncomplicated Plasmodium falciparum malaria. It's a huge step towards developing a new drug. Then Cadila. It launched Lipaglyn, which is saroglitazar, in 2013 for the treatment of diabetes. Now, the interesting part here is so this is the step, this is a milestone. And this is where we are expected to reach. It's not like it will happen in a year, it will take a few decades, but we need to start. And I think the process has already started in India, but learning from other countries, we need to apply more and more knowledge towards boosting the private sector to reach to that level where India stands equally good in terms of innovative drug development. What are the strengths India has? What are the positive things? So there's already a lot of innovative work happening. It has begun to happen, especially in terms of tropical diseases as malaria and other infectious disease areas, especially in vaccine and also vaccine research in India. Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation has helped a lot in this space. India also has a very interesting epidemiological profile where along with infectious diseases, it has a huge number of cardiovascular problems, other chronic diseases. I'm not saying it's a good thing as for people, but since we have it, it's a great platform to develop further innovative products to take care of these kind of diseases. And if you want to do a clinical research trial, any kind of research, it's easier to get all kind of patient data right from one country. So it is a strong candidate to become a future powerhouse of research and development and manufacturing in pharma. But what are the challenges that India faces? First of all, there is a slow adoption of respect for the patents. In the past, it has prevented India's R&D sector from making the full transition from a generic market to a patents market. So a lot of private, especially multinational companies, innovator companies, were reluctant and some are still reluctant to invest in India's R&D because they suspect that there is not enough respect towards the patent laws. But slowly it is changing and hopefully it will change for good. Regulatory changes need to be made. Like I think yesterday's presentation also mentioned there are a lot of changes happening in regulatory environment, and they still need to continue to change to help Indian pharmaceutical companies with more financial and social capital for their drug research. Because a company cannot come up with that kind of investment on their own. So there has to be some backup from regulatory authorities, from countries, from partnerships to create that kind of environment. And we definitely need to focus more on academic institutes and not just some students are doing some research in institute, they get their degree and then they leave the research, they go to a different country, maybe US or Canada, and they do their research there. So India loses there. Either that research is left altogether or that research is taken to another country. And India doesn't get the right recognition that it should be getting. There needs to be definitely better funding for academic institutes so that they can fund the researchers, the students to pursue the research further to its development and commercialization. There should be more government funding for initiatives like startup hubs, because I don't know a lot of startup hubs, but I do know some startup hubs from IIT, and they do struggle with a lot of funding issues, and they end up asking for funding from international agencies because they don't have enough fundings, even though they have promising results and they are doing good for the society. There's still lack of funds for that. And there needs to be academic industry collaboration. I think we talked a lot about that in concern with Canada, and the same model can be very useful in India too. Okay, so this was more about what Canada is doing, what has been working for their clinical development, drug development and innovation in pharmaceuticals. And some of those lessons can be applied here to get better results. Excuse me. And then I would briefly go through career options. So every one of you here, all the students join pharmacy, maybe BS, graduation, undergraduation program, or a thesis program, and PhD. And in the end, everyone wants a degree, and then everyone is curious about what kind of career I can get into. This is not a complete list, but this is a list from my experience in the industry of different kind of job profiles that I've seen, and mostly for pharmaceutical students and graduates that they get into. And some of the options are, you can be a researcher. Suppose you have a great idea and you are working on a research project in your college, and then you go ahead and develop it further. You can be a researcher. Some of you can also choose to be a clinical research associate. And you can definitely ask me in details about what these profiles have to do and know later in the question answer session. Right now, I will just go through it briefly. Then some of you might be interested in marketing. So the pharmaceutical marketing is an important and interesting field, and happening too. Then the pharmaceutical sales executives, some of you can opt for industry licensing, regulatory executives, clinical data managers, clinical research coordinators at hospital and clinic level. You could be part of planning and development of new research or a new business in pharmaceuticals. Some of you can choose to be medical writers. Some of you can choose to have your own spin-offs or startup companies. Business development in pharmaceutical and clinical research organizations is also a lucrative career. Then some of you can take your own initiative to develop academy industry collaborations. That itself is a huge opportunity, which is untapped currently. Some of you can be policymakers and health technology incubators. So we talked about drug development, and now we're talking about the careers. So why is it, where will your knowledge of clinical research and drug development be applicable in your career? Why? Why should you know about that? So if you decide to be a researcher, if you end up being a researcher, you need to know the process of the whole development process, like from the chemical to the phase 4, so that you know where you're leading, you see your path of your development. So like, if you know the process, it will make it easier for you to develop and take your research candidate to the next step, that is commercialization. So you will know how to make your protocol, how it should be, what is expected from the regulatory authorities, instead of making a protocol that didn't work. So you have to redo your work. So your knowledge will prevent all those mistakes. Starting with the right protocols, understanding the ethics of the research, it will definitely cut down on time and cost in the future. You can direct your research towards successful outcome. It will definitely be helpful in writing research papers and writing funding proposals. In terms of pharmaceuticals, R&D and CROs, that is clinical research organizations, you have the option of being a clinical research associate, regulatory executives, clinical data managers, clinical research coordinators, medical writers, and all of these careers need thorough understanding of clinical research management, good clinical practices, research ethics, patient confidentiality, and country-specific regulatory guidelines. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, madam.
So
we need to move fast.
Yeah, this is just the last slide.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. For the pharmacist, we already went through the research base. And then if you decide to be in the marketing or sales executive position, industrializing, or business development, this knowledge will give you positive edge with your consumers, industry leaders, and it will identify opportunities and assist your physicians in your professional development. And you will be able to give your inputs in a holistic manner in the whole team. And if you go for planning and development, incubators, spin-offs, you're understanding the complete cycle of drug development to marketing provides higher level of professional performance, well-respected industry leaders, key opinion leaders. And you will have a better ability to plan and execute operations and finances. You'll be able to participate and contribute in all levels in the team. That was pretty much it. These are some of the references I've used. Thank you. And any questions?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Vatsala. It was really very, very informative talk by you, explaining us the Canadian drug development, as well as I appreciated the Indian comparison at the end of the lecture. So, for students and every one of us, the take-home message particularly is about the importance of the industry and academia interaction in, uh, what you say, streamlining the drug development. And I also appreciated the way you took us through the whole uh, uh, Canadian map of the drug development, the Canadian health agencies like TPD and the health product food branch of Canadian Health Agency, the comparative economic impacts about Canada, America, and India. I mean, how they spend money on the drug development, and most importantly, the positive driving factors for the drug development, particularly as far as industry academia interaction is concerned. And you also explained about the big pharmaceutical giants which are actually collaborating with the Canadian Health Research Institutes, and the importance of symbiotic relationship with the institute, I mean the pharma companies, the researchers, and the thesis students. So collaboration happens to be the important key to success. And of course, I appreciate that it's not only one person whose thought process will go into drug development. It has to be many thoughts and, understanding or collaboration from different individuals to make a successful drug for that matter. I also appreciated the Canadian clinical trial asset map, the portal which provides support for clinical trials. And I think that's the reason why Canada is fourth number as far as clinical trial site. I mean, that's how Canada ranks, and that's because of such trial asset maps that the Canadian government has made it um, available to people. I appreciate the success stories that you told us about, particularly the network centers, the centers of excellence, international networking institutes, the federal research networks. And finally, you also informed about the Indian scenario and for the students opportunities to uh, have their careers in. So I would now ask the students or the participants also if they have any questions. And since we are going little slower. I mean, the next session was to start by 12 o'clock. Can we have a few questions? I mean, we could take a few questions. In fact, I have not got any question here.
Thank you, Sadhana madam. Thank you for briefing the session and summarizing Vatsala madam's talk. Actually, I would request all the delegates, those who have questions, kindly mail it to us and we will separately connect to Vatsala madam so that she can answer them on email also, as we are running short of time. I apologize, and we'll take question answer sessions by email. So is it okay, Vatsala madam?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't realize the time. Yeah, I'm fine.
And I just want to say, Vatsala, we had a nice time. You really took us through the whole drug development of Canada. So, it was very interesting to know. And one thing we have understood that collaboration is most important as far as drug development is concerned.
Yeah, in today's era, collaboration, all kind of innovations are the most important things. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you. Yeah.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
a lot.
Thank you. It was a nice presentation, Dr. Vatsala and Dr. Sadhana Sathya. We are very thankful to you. We
It's
appreciate,
my pleasure. Yeah. I enjoyed too.
and
Thank you.
you are always there for us, as Dr. Aman is already
Yeah.
telling.
I'm always there for you.
Thank you very much. Let us wind up here, and I now hand over the session to Dr. V.A. Chatpaliwar to proceed with Dr. Saranjit Singh's talk. Thank you. Stay tuned. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Ms. Swati Madam. We have been eagerly waiting to hear Dr. Saranjit Singh sir, the master himself, since this first day of this conference. I thank him wholeheartedly for making himself available, although against the conditions, but he still is eager to join us and be available with us to deliberate his talk on translational science. May I invite the chairperson of this session, Dr. Krishna Iyer, to introduce Dr. Saranjit Singh sir. Dr. Krishna Iyer. Dr.
Good morning.
Are you there?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
May I introduce Dr. Krishna Iyer? May I introduce Dr.
Hello.
Krishna Iyer to the delegates, to the participants?
Hello. Yeah.
Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes. Dr. Krishna Iyer, sir, we are very glad to have you here. Let me introduce you to the delegates and participants of this conference. Dr. Krishna Iyer, hailing from Mumbai, has completed his B.Pharm from Bombay College of Pharmacy, affiliated to University of Mumbai in the year 1985. He then pursued his M.Pharm from University Department of Chemical Technology, University of Mumbai in the year 1987. Later, he pursued his PhD at University of Minnesota, completed in the year 1992. He then pursued his postdoctoral fellowship from University of Washington, Seattle, in collaboration with Park Davis Research Center. Subsequently, in the year 1998, he had joined Bombay College of Pharmacy in the capacity of assistant professor in pharmaceutical chemistry. Since then, he has scaled up the ladder of career, and in 2006, he was appointed as professor in pharmaceutical chemistry, and till date, he is executing his duties as professor in Bombay College of Pharmacy itself. He is currently the chairman of Board of Studies, University of Mumbai for pharmaceutical chemistry, and also executing his duties as controller of examination. His research of interest lies in studying mechanisms of drug metabolism, developing in vitro drug metabolism methodologies, population phenotype and genotype, and drug-drug interaction predictions. With this short introduction, may I request Dr. Krishna Iyer to introduce the master himself, Dr. Saranjit Singh sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just to confirm, am I audible? Can one of you just confirm?
Yes, very well.
It's a pleasure to be with you, and thank you, Dr. Chatpaliwar, for inviting me to be part of this wonderful seminar. And it's my pleasure and honor to be introducing Dr. Saranjit Singh, whom I have known for the past close to 20-25 years now. Saranjit, at one point, I actually had joined NIPER Mohali as a faculty, but for some personal reasons, I had to leave and then come back to Mumbai. And I've been at Bombay College of Pharmacy then. So I'd met Dr. Saranjit Singh at that point, and our acquaintance has been since that time. Dr. Saranjit Singh is one of the most respected scientists in India. He's an alumnus of Punjab University, and he's probably one of the founder members of NIPER Mohali. And he has been with NIPER Mohali for as long as I know. He has been ex-dean, is now the head of the Department of Pharmaceutical Analysis at NIPER. And his claim to fame has been over the years pharmaceutical analysis in a niche area, what we call as impurity profiling, stability testing, development of degradation protocols. And over the last maybe close to 10 years or so, sir, sir has ventured into the area of mass spectrometry. And mass spectrometry as applied to analysis of metabolites, analysis of proteins, analysis of transporters, and along with Bhagwat Prasad, who is one of his ex-students, they have done some wonderful work in the area of DMPK. Dr. Saranjit Singh's research contribution can be evident from several, what you call as benchmarks. He has published close to 300 papers. His students and him have presented close to 300 posters. He himself has probably given more than 500 lectures and counting. And his citations are amazing. He has been cited close to 7,000 times, and his H index is 43. So people who are unaware, H index of 43 means he has got 43 papers which have been cited at least 43 times, which is amazing, because that not only tells you how prolific he is, but also how his research is appreciated everywhere in the scientific community. Because of his rich experience and expertise, he has been on the advisory panel of amazing organizations like World Health Organization, the International Pharmacopoeia, the Indian Pharmacopoeia, and also the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare of the Government of India. It's two great honors, is ML Khorana Memorial Lecture Award and Eminent Analyst Award. And I'm pretty sure it's not going to stop here. He's going to be receiving more awards down the road. And I sincerely believe that he's set up for some lifetime achievement awards. It's been a pleasure to have known you, Dr. Saranjit Singh. It's a pleasure to continue to know you. And it's an honor for me to present you to the audience today. Thank you, sir. And thanks for giving me this honor. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Krishna, my esteemed friend. You have spoken so high for me. I don't know whether I deserve the same or not. I am also thankful to Dr. Upasni and Dr. Vivekanand for inviting me and giving me the honor all the time whenever SNJBCon is being held year after year. I was listening to Dr. Vasala, and I really appreciate that the elaborate and well-researched presentation she made on what is happening in Canada and what we need to do in India, and what are the career opportunities for our students. And even some of our faculty members can try migrating to Canada and basically be part of the whole collaborative setup there, and whatnot, the opportunities she listed. Friends, basically today my talk is very different from the flow of the seminar that is going now and today on the clinical research. Actually, Vivekananda invited me to give an opening talk, but due to some compulsion and sad happening at among some of my relatives, so I could not be there on the inaugural day. So today also, if my slides are visible now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm dedicating this lecture to late Dr. Manoj Kumar, Professor of Pharmaceutical Chemistry, University Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences, PU, Chandigarh, who expired yesterday fighting the battle against lung cancer. May his soul rest in peace. And practically immediately after this lecture, I have to rush to the cremation ground to be part of his funeral. I'm sorry for that. Again, basically the title I have put is a very, very different title today. Just a minute. It is a translational science for phenomena in nature. Again, away from the total theme of this conference, which is happening, and it's a fourth day today. Maybe the purpose of giving this talk, and perhaps as an inaugural talk, was a very different purpose. And what I wanted and wished was to motivate you all to develop a next level of scientific temperament. You know that in India, we are, and what Dr. Vasala was also showing some of the slide of patents and other things, that we as community are less innovative. Why this is happening is because I don't know the reason practically, but that type of environment of innovation had not been there. It had been there, but not at a large and practically in the pharma sector. The innovation in true sense, which has made a mark and given us some big, large awards, that has been really slow in India. So I thought, let me give you some of my thought process with respect to how we can build up and develop our next level of scientific temperament. Further on, I don't know, just my slides are getting hung up. I don't know what's happening. Okay, what I wish to discuss with you a few stories that have left me inspired towards science during my life journey. My personal experiences and how basically I have been, in particular, the story that have inspired me throughout. And these are the stories of inquisitiveness, curiosity about scientific phenomena in nature and surroundings. Now, they are none of my own contributions. I'll be telling about the stories from my childhood, how I developed the scientific temperament. Listening to the stories about scientific phenomena in nature and surroundings. So once that were of translation nature with significant impact, I will be touching a few of them, more of them which were translation nature and had a significant impact. And what the word translation means, let me be very, very clear to you and factful to you, truthful to you. The word translational is of a very current, it has come into picture very currently that we are talking of everything translational. And I was also not really clear about this till a few years ago. So translation means that transfer of scientific knowledge into practical application. So anything which is a scientific phenomenon put into a practical application, something which is from nature that put into practical application. I will giving you some of the examples. Now, first, let us look into my childhood fascination, which must be in your case also, because some of the examples we have been teaching to all the children through our textbooks. First of all, it's good to talk about Isaac Newton, who lived from